These are the notes for 8.4, similar triangles, and the objectives for today are to identify similar triangles and use similar triangles to solve real-life problems. For your note cards, you'll need postulate 25, which is on page 481, and that's the angle-angle postulate. So if two angles of one triangle are congruent to two angles of another triangle, then those two triangles we know are similar to each other. The problems I'm going to be doing are page 483 to 485, numbers 10, 20, 30, 34, 44, and 46. Okay, number 10, we're given that triangle VWT is similar to triangle SUT, and they want us to list the congruent angles and the proportional sides. So I know that angle V is congruent to angle S. Those are marked for me. And I also know that these two triangles share angle T, so those are congruent to each other. That's what makes the two triangles similar, because remember, the angle-angle theorem is tells us that if two angles are congruent to each other, then the triangles are. And then the last angles that are congruent to each other are angle W and angle U. Now we know that if two angles are congruent to each other, that means the third angle has to be congruent to each other. The proportional sides are VW would be proportional to SU, and then also WT would be proportional to UT, and also VT would be proportional to ST. So those are our congruent angles and proportional sides. Okay, on number 20 on page 484, we are given two triangles, and they want us to tell if they're similar or not. The only way to prove they're similar is, number one, to prove that two of their angles are congruent, or to prove that their sides are proportional to each other. I don't know anything about the angles here, so I'm going to have to do it with the sides. So I'm going to put SR over PM, and that ratio reduces to 4 over 5. And then if I put RT over MQ, that ratio also reduces to 4 over 5. And now I need to check the third side, so if I put ST over PQ, that ratio reduces to 10 over 13. So these are not proportional or not similar because all three of these sets of sides would have to have the same scale factor. So since 10/13 does not equal 4/5, then these triangles are not similar. Okay, on number 30 on page 484, we're supposed to find the missing coordinate here, which is point E. They've given us that point O is 0, 0, point B is 0, 4, point C is 3, 0, and point D is 0, 7. And I've gone ahead and graphed those on a coordinate plane. And I'm going to try to find E so that the two triangles will be similar to each other. Now, what I know is that OB is 4 units, and that OD is 7 units, and that if these triangles are similar, those are proportional to each other. So I'm going to put 4 over 7. Then I also know that in my smaller triangle, OC is 3 units. And if I could find OE, since O starts at 0, that would give me what point E is. So I'm just going to cross multiply and divide here. So 4 times x is 4x, 3 times 7 is 21, and when I divide both sides by 4, I get that x is 5.25, or 5 1/4. So I would know that the distance is 5 1/4. Now since point O started at 0, 0, that means that point E is 5 1/4, 0. If that didn't start at 0, 0, I would have to add 5 1/4 to whatever O started at. Okay, on number 34 on page 485, we're supposed to fill in this proportionality statement. And first thing I need to do is figure out which triangles are similar to each other. And I know that AB and DC are parallel to each other because those have arrows on those lines. And I know that AEB and DEC are vertical angles, which means those two are congruent to each other. So because I've got parallel lines, and then I've got this transversal that cuts those parallel lines, AC is a transversal, then that makes angle BAE, this little angle right here, is going to be congruent to angle BDC. No, let me say that again. Angle BAE is going to be congruent to angle ECD, so this angle over here, because those are alternate interior angles for these two parallel lines that are running right here, and they're cut by this transversal. So that makes those two triangles ABE similar to triangle CDE. So ABE is similar to triangle CDE. So those two triangles are similar to each other. So now I can fill in these proportional statements with the sides. So that makes AB proportional to CD, and that makes AE proportional to CE, and that makes BE proportional to DE. You have to really be careful here because you probably would have gotten A, B, and CD right, but because angle A is congruent to angle C, you know, those are on opposite sides here. Make sure that you've got that AE is proportional to CE and not to DE. Okay, number 44, they tell us that these two triangles are similar. So that means that this large triangle here is similar to the small triangle here. And so we're just supposed to find the value of the variable. So that makes this 4 would go over 9. Now the reason it goes over 9 is because this 4, that side of the triangle, is similar to this whole side of the big triangle. So 4 plus 5 is 9. And then I also know that 6 would be proportional to S, because those are both the bottom sides of the two triangles. So now just cross multiply and divide. 4S is equal to 54. Divide both sides by 4. And S is equal to 13 1/2. Okay, on page 485, number 46, we're given that these two triangles are similar to each other. So I'm supposed to find the value of the variable. So I know that 48 would be proportional to Y. And I also know that 36 is going to be proportional to Y minus 20. Now, even though that it didn't tell us that those these triangles that are formed by this segment that's bisecting those sides, that those were similar to each other. I know they are because it does bisect the sides, and that becomes really important there. So I can go ahead and set this proportion up. So I cross multiply and I get 36Y equals 48 times Y minus 20. Then I'll distribute. After I distribute, I get 48Y minus 960 equals 36Y, and I'll put my like terms together. So after I put my like terms together, I got 48Y minus 36Y equals 960, 12Y equals 960. Then I'll divide both sides by 12, and I'll get that Y is equal to 80. So the value of the variable is 80. So that makes this side over here 80 and this side here 60. Although I think the only thing they want is the y. So your homework for this evening is pages 483 to 485, numbers 9, 13 through 19 odd, 25 to 31 odd, and 33 to 47 odd.